In this episode, we go to the 6th floor, outside, and we discuss peak week. Welcome to AskTheLJs episode 9. I'm Luke.
I'm Lawrence.
And we've gone up a level, literally.
Our office is on the 5th floor of this building. We've gone up to the balcony of the 6th floor. We can't show you the inside of the office. We're not allowed to film that because we don't pay 14 grand a month to have this office.
Yeah. One day.
One day. One can dream. Dare to dream. So,
right, let's go, Lawrence. What we got?
This episode, we have a question from Jack, from J. Juliet. I think his name's Jack Julian from Instagram.
Nice.
Yeah,
Thanks,
his
Jack.
Instagram handle is @JJuliet. So he's asked, what is your stance on peak week for a natural competitor? Important distinction. Assuming stage lean. So assuming
they're already lean enough. They've
done
done the hard
everything
work.
they need
They're
to,
there.
yeah.
They're shredded enough. It's just that last little percentage of maybe.
Exactly. He said, is there a general direction or does it vary from person to person? Any general guidelines in terms of front or back loading carbs?
Cool. Well, I'll go then. Thank you.
Go.
We have to do it. So I
Yeah, you ask a question.
We'll do that next. We'll do that
some
next.
answers.
Share the love. So, Jack, yeah?
Yeah, Jack.
So, if they're already dieted down, if they're lean enough to get on stage, then your aim is not to fuck up peak week. As in, peak week isn't something magical. So, let's say you're lean enough. What I tend to do, which I think is the safer option, in case you spill over, which would make you look
Terrible.
Yeah, watery and
Just terrible.
yeah, so I tend to front load. Again, I get my advice from Eric Helms, who teaches on the academy. I consider him the best when it comes to natural bodybuilding, coaching and contest prep. So I would go more front loading. So they're already lean enough. Obviously, if they're not lean enough, then don't go front loading. Use those extra few days to really try and
I think the phrase
a
is
percentage.
dial it in.
Dial it in.
Dial it in is the
Dial
phrase
it in.
people like to use.
We're not like bodybuilding specialists here. Obviously, 3DMJ are. They're not. We don't specialise in that. But I have coached a handful amount of contest prep with males and females. So if you can, they're lean enough. Then I like to front load maybe on the Tuesday, Wednesday of that week, considering they have their show on a Saturday typically. And then I just basically, it's a dynamic peak week.
Yeah.
What I use is a spreadsheet. We put their macros in for the week, and then we just basically get them to send us a photo in the morning, their weight, how they're feeling, so we can look at them as well as gauge from their weight on how they're responding. And what happens a lot, especially if they're lean enough, when you start upping the carbs, their body weight starts to drop a little bit, probably because of the stress and cortisol and maybe holding on to a bit of water. So I use that as a gauge, photos as well as their weight, and just get feedback from them. So yeah, front load it and then see where we sort of got them nice and full and they've not spilt over, and then we could either make that decision when it comes to maybe the Friday. Do we stick with carbs there? Do we drop them down a bit, or can we top them up a little bit more? So it's very much a dynamic peak week. If your coach just gives you, here's your macros for your peak week and here's your training, off you go. I just want to know if you win. If you don't win, then don't message me. Goodbye. There's no reverse dieting. There's no after show support, which is terrible. So yeah, front load if possible. If they need to eke a little bit more, then back load a little bit more. But again, you're being a little bit more riskier, because if you overspill them, then you don't really have much time to correct that. Judd?
Yeah, I mean,
You've had some females,
I've
contest prep,
yeah, I have.
and other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that front loading is definitely kind of a safer option if you can. And like Luke said, if they're not lean enough, don't front load, because you want to use that extra time to really bring them down. I think front loading, you may be able to bring people in like a little bit fuller
It's just a
because
safer bet because you've got time to adjust.
You've got that little extra time. If you backload someone, likelihood is you're going to be a little more conservative on how many carbs you throw into them, because at this point you've only really got one shot if you're backloading it, like the day or 2 days before the competition, so you're not going to want them to spill over. So at that point they're generally going to come in possibly looking a little leaner and maybe a little smaller, because you're not able to fill them out as much with all of those carbs. So at that point it's maybe a case of looking at the lineup that they're in, looking at the other competitors, and obviously we know that bodybuilders love to post photos of themselves on social media, especially when they're getting really lean in the run-up to a competition. So likelihood is you'll be able to look at the competitors in that show and in that class and make a judgment call as to whether you will show your athlete off to the best of their ability, coming in maybe a tiny bit softer than everyone else but noticeably bigger, or whether they'll look more, they'll stand out more if they are maybe slightly smaller but absolutely shredded and then
Diced.
Yeah, diced to the bone.
I think that's where you've got to look at the individual as well, because I had one client where he just didn't have the legs. So for him to try and be nice and full, he's never going to compete in size. So let's go with trying to be the most shredded, because again, if we did go down the route trying to get full, he's still not going to, his legs ain't going to grow just by having carbs. That's not going to happen. So I looked at, right, I'm going to make sure that he's as shredded as possible, rather than trying to carb him up too much where he might overspill, and then obviously his downside, we was going for his leanness rather than his
conditioning.
Other things like water, sodium and stuff like that, there's research on sodium. If you mess around with it, your body is a clever thing, it adapts to what you put in it, etc. So what I tend to do is be looking at their sodium intake. Some people, like on MyFitnessPal and stuff like that, and try and see if they're more on like a higher sodium than maybe on the lower end, and use that. Don't mess around with water. Don't like drink 10 litres of water a day. This is what I'd done when I just got into like a photo shoot, and literally I was teaching at the time, so it was like every lesson I was like, sorry students, I'm gonna have to go and take a leak again. So don't mess around with stuff on peak week. You don't want to do things to your body that it's not accustomed to, because it's going to have a bad reaction. Another thing, if you are lean enough beforehand, try it and practice and look at how they are with, if you're getting them on like a high carb day. I used to like having one high carb day. I haven't prepped anyone for a show for a while now, and I know Alberto Nunez, when he presented at Epic, was looking at like a 2-day refeed as well. So using the weeks and weeks before, the data to see, do they look best the day after, 2 days after, and using that to gauge how you maybe front load, back load, and how they perform with that. Other things would be if there's another competition beforehand, looking at maybe using that as a warm up, and having a practice peak week before. If they are lean enough, it's always good if they can sort of enjoy that eating in or
eating up to a show,
into a show. So if you can front load. But the luxury as a coach is that you don't get many clients come to you in that great condition where you can practice a peak week 2 weeks out. So yeah.
Also, it's very rare that, well, I say very rare, it's less common to have competitors stay with you for multiple seasons. Especially with the ones that we've had, it's been kind of 1 or 2 shows, and then
they're not like natural bodybuilders, serious. They're probably doing more physique shows. I just want to get shredded once, so I can.
I mean, peak
put
week.
Board shorts on.
Yeah, peak week is going to be. It needs to be kind of tailored for each individual, and that only comes with taking individuals through successive competition cycles, and kind of. At that point, it's really what works for them, because there is zero.
And that's what you get from just working with clients after years and years. I know clients I've worked with for years that when they maybe go into more of a deficit phase, I know that they're a neat freak, so I'm going to have to drop more carbs or drop more calories than the typical 500 calories. So yeah, just getting to get to know your client a lot better. Right, that's it for today's show. Let's have a question of the day, because we've missed this out a few times. Have you competed? If so, where did you place? See you soon.